I'm Afshin Rattansi and welcome back to Going Underground, broadcasting all around the world from Dubai in the UAE. In today's special episode, we're joined again by the overthrown 22nd Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan. Since we last spoke to him on the show, he's been arrested and released on bail. His arrest was deemed unlawful by the Pakistan Supreme Court, and protests following his arrest led to several deaths and hundreds being detained. Now, under de facto house arrest, he's still awaiting the outcome of scores of legal cases brought against him. Former Prime Minister and chair of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, Imran Khan, joins me now from Lahore, capital of Punjab province in Pakistan. Thank you so much, former Prime Minister, for coming back on the show. Before we get back to the state of play and what's been happening since you were last on, when we were terrified there was going to be imminent assassination, I better just ask you, because here in the UAE, I mean, the UAE Minister of Economy has gone to St. Petersburg, to the International Economic Forum there. People are talking about Russia all over the global south. I noticed you said, is this a solution, is this a reason for toppling my regime, when talking about the Russian crude oil that arrived in Karachi over the past few days? What did you mean by that?
Well, you know, one of the reasons we felt that General Bajwa, who was then the army chief, one of the reasons was a pretext used was that I was getting too close to Russia, and that, you know, we had struck a deal to get cheaper oil and cheaper wheat on my Russian trip. But I think that was just a pretext, because the conspiracy was basically that General Bajwa wanted to have an extension, and he had already worked out with who's the current Prime Minister, that they had worked out that if my government was removed and his government came in, this current government, then General Bajwa would get an extension. This was behind the real reason behind the conspiracy to remove me.
Because, you know, the Pakistani government says, no, we sent the petroleum minister, Musaddiq Malik, in December to Moscow. Russia rejected his 30 to 40% discount on the crude. It's the present government of Shahbaz Sharif who's doing the deals.
This is not true. I had a long meeting, you know, with President Putin. It was about bilateral issues. One of the things I talked about was that because of the tension, then it wasn't, well, I think that morning, and unfortunately, Russians moved into Ukraine. But until then, the tension had raised the prices of oil internationally, and that affected countries like us, the developing world. It affected enormously because the petroleum imports are such a large part of our imports that it upsets our balance of payments. So therefore, it causes huge inflation in our countries, which pushes people below the poverty line. So when I spoke to President Putin, he then sent his energy minister to talk to our energy minister to strike out a deal to have discounted oil. But the moment we got back, a few days later, there was a vote of no confidence, and really the whole thing went out of the window. We were, in a couple of weeks, our government was removed.
You're not going to tell us the discount, because I know that the 40% figure, which I think is being bandied around Pakistan, has been rejected by the Russians.
No, well, I didn't say, India got apparently 40% discount, but I mean, we just spoke about a discount. That was, things were going to move forward from then onwards. But the moment we came back, the no confidence portion came, and then everything went on hold, because then it was a question of the government surviving.
Yeah, I mean, we did talk a little bit last time about the US role in your being deposed as Prime Minister. I think maybe our audience wants to know that I hadn't realized. So on the 20th of June 2021, you made a statement saying Pakistan will not allow the CIA or US Special Forces to base themselves inside this country ever again, verbatim. And what, in 10 months later, you were out. Are these two events connected?
Well, look, you know, there's a history to that. Pakistan participated in the US war on terror, which is after 9/11. And in that war, 80,000 Pakistanis died. And not just that, I mean, over $100 billion lost to the economy because Pakistan became the epicenter of terror. We had bombs going all over the place. We had suicide attacks, but the state was trying to save itself. So my point was that Pakistan should not get involved in conflicts of other countries. My point is that the top priority of a Pakistani leader, prime minister, should be to protect its vulnerable people. And we have 100 million people who are vulnerable, 50 below the poverty line, 50 just above it. So if you are involved in a conflict, how can you protect the interest of your own people? And always the conflict causes poverty. And in our case, in the war on terror for 15 years, which Pakistan participated, I mean, no investor would come to Pakistan.
But clearly the CIA are working with the ISI now, are they? Or aren't they? Because ever since the fall of Kabul and the absurd evacuation, the lethal evacuation of the United States, where's the Islamist terrorism gone in Pakistan, let alone across the Middle East? It all seems to have, and peace is breaking out, of course, in this region. Why is it, since the United States are focused on Ukraine, it's all disappeared, arguably? There is still some terrorism in Pakistan, of course.
No, well, actually, there's very little terrorism in Pakistan. We had a bit of terrorism when the Pakistani Taliban who were in Afghanistan, after the fall of Kabul, the Afghan government made them relocate back to Pakistan. So there is a bit of terrorism. I mean, I can't say there is zero terrorism, but that's because our government has taken the eye off the ball. I mean, if we were in government, we would have rehabilitated them. We would have spent time and money to make sure that they got rehabilitated back into society.
Do you think it's connected, the US focus on Kiev and the sudden decline in so-called Islamist terrorism?
Well, you know, the war on terrorism created terrorists. I mean, in Pakistan, I mean, look, I have made statements and interviews over the 15 years when we were participated in this war on terror. I kept saying that the more actions you take against the militants, more collateral damage, because, you know, there was no army they were fighting. These were civilians. So, for instance, there were 450 drone attacks in Pakistan. Now, these drone attacks, it's the only time a country is being bombed by its own ally. But the drone attacks, remember, they were in villages, and in what I call the tribal areas adjacent to Afghanistan. And so when a bomb explodes in a village, there's a lot of collateral damage. And collateral damage created militants. I have no doubt that even in Afghanistan, the Afghan Taliban gained from collateral damage caused by night raids and drone attacks in Afghanistan. Same happened in Pakistan's tribal area. The more the drone attacks, the more collateral damage, the more militants. So, but in different wars in Pakistan, they avenged themselves against Pakistan's security forces. So both sides, Pakistanis were dying.
Well, so at least Pakistani security forces aren't bearing as much of the brunt of this type of terror nowadays. What's been happening to you? Because we thought that there was an imminent prospect of your assassination. You've been shot, you're injured. I don't know how you're healing. And now you were detained, and can you leave your house right now?
Well, look, since we last spoke, I had one assassination attempt. And then since we last spoke after that, on the 18th of March, I had another assassination attempt. And then there was another one a few days later, which I preempted because I was informed beforehand that there was going to be a false flag operation where there were people they had people inducted within my own party members, and they would have shot some policeman, and then the police would have come to kill me. And why is my life in danger? Because according to all opinion polls, we will sweep the elections. So this is the election year.
Well,
And out
you
of
know that,
37,
but you know that Mariam Sharif, the daughter of the Panama Papers Prime Minister, arguably, Nawaz Sharif, who is protected in London, I don't know, British authorities are protecting him, Mariam claimed your party could fit into one rickshaw.
well, if that was the case, then they shouldn't be worried about elections. Already the government, her government, the Supreme Court had ordered elections according to the Constitution on the 15th of May of Punjab, the biggest province, 60% of Pakistan. The government refused. Out of 37 by-elections, PTI, my party, has swept 30 of them. So if the party fits in a small place, why are they so scared of elections?
Yeah, but on the other hand, you did get bail, and surely Shahbaz Sharif is correct in that it's only the present Pakistani government that changed the bail remand period from 90 days, which it was under your government, to 15 days, which is why you're free to talk to me right now.
No, that's not true. I wasn't on remand. The Supreme Court ruled that my arrest was unlawful. That's why I got out.
I think what the Prime Minister was getting at was things were pretty tough under your Prime Ministership in Pakistan for journalists, for the media, for the economy, actually.
It is the biggest nonsense. First of all, economy. All you have to do is look at the economic survey of Pakistan published by this government. Our economy was booming a year ago. It was growing at 6%, and it is in the economic survey of Pakistan. And our industry was growing, our agriculture in 17 years.
You borrowed from the IMF.
Afshin, you must understand. 17 years, the government had the best economic performance. Plus, the handling of COVID, we were the top 3 countries which handled COVID-19 the best. So that's nonsense. And secondly, how can anyone compare what happened in my 3.5 years to virtually a martial law in Pakistan right now? This complete media, my name is not allowed to be uttered on media. Forget about appearance. The judiciary passes a verdict, the government doesn't listen to it. We now are becoming a banana republic. You can't even compare what happened between what was happening in my time and this government.
A former Prime Minister, I'll stop you there. More from the 22nd Prime Minister of Pakistan and the chairman of the PTI, Imran Khan, after this break. Welcome back to Going Underground. I'm still here with overthrown Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan. You see, even though you're there, you've been detained, you've been shot at, you face assassination threats, Pakistan seems to be on the global stage, while, of course, I think the government itself recognizes the terrible economic hardship, increasing hardship of the population of Pakistan. They're doing deals with China, with Russia, with BRICS. Pakistan is going to be no doubt represented in South Africa at the BRICS summit without you. Presumably you would want Pakistan to join BRICS, would you? Or obviously there's a certain element of not wanting Pakistan in BRICS, because while China might, clearly it may reduce the power of BRICS because India would stop participating.
Look, international relationship, my opinion is very straightforward. Pakistan became part of the Western Bloc during the Cold War. And so, we were cut off from Russia and all the Soviet Union bloc. India, on the other hand, had a non-aligned foreign policy, so they weren't part of a bloc. Right now, again, India is a part of the Quad, which is the special relationship with the US in that alliance, and yet it trades with Russia. It is trading with China. I mean, that's how countries should have the foreign policy, should be for the benefit of their own people.
You spoke to us a little about it last time. I don't know whether you want to join the BJP, but you did speak to us about how you think a non-aligned policy like the one Modi is following is the correct path.
Well, no, it is in India's non-aligned policy has been since inception, since 75 years. And so Modi is basically following that policy. But my point is that countries should, the foreign policy should be for the benefit of their own people. When you become part of blocs or when you become part of a conflict, like Pakistan became part of the Afghan jihad, we paid a heavy price. We had 5 million refugees here. We had Kalashnikovs. We had drugs flowing in here. And sectarian militancy in Pakistan as a result of that first joining the Afghan jihad. Then we've joined the war on terror. 80,000 Pakistanis were killed. So my point is countries, Pakistan, top priority is to get people out of poverty. It should not.
Do you think BRICS is the way
conflict.
for that? BRICS is the way forward for that? Because obviously the United States has various issues with the BRICS Bank, let alone Chinese foreign economic policy.
The problem is we have the US-China rivalry right now. And that is a problem because, you know, you have to navigate between them. But I mean, China is Pakistan's neighbor. It is the fastest growing economy. So we have to have good relationship with China. We always have had for 17 years.
Why didn't you borrow the money from the BRICS Bank instead of the Washington IMF when you were Prime Minister?
Well, you know, we didn't have that option, I'm afraid, then. We were already in an IMF program when I became the Prime Minister. And, you know, we really had no choice but to go to the IMF.
Okay, I know that there's some in the opposition that might reject that. Any reaction that you know of from to the letter? Congressman Brad Sherman in the United States has warned the U.S. government that there's a deteriorating situation in Pakistan. Every time the question is asked at the State Department briefings, they go, well, you know, it's an internal matter what's happening to Imran Khan and what's happening to the people of Pakistan and what's happening about the oil shipments from Moscow even. Did Blinken reply to Congressman Brad Sherman as far as you understand, or has he ignored the letter? You might have to explain what the letter was.
I think you're talking about the U.S. spokesperson.
Yeah, Congressman Brad Sherman has written to Blinken at the State Department saying, you know, what on earth is going on in Pakistan as regards democracy, as regards the imprisoning of your party members and leaders, let alone what's happening to you?
Well, look, you know, I don't care what this, you know, if they don't comment about what's happening to me. And frankly, I think Pakistan's internal matters, eventually we will have to solve our problems. But my only point is, you know, how come the Western countries talk about what is happening in Taiwan, what's happening in Hong Kong, about the Uyghurs in China, and about Russian human rights issues? So is it only our human rights and democracy important when it comes to rivals? Should it not be consistently across the board that if your professed aims are democracy and human rights, then should it be wherever they are violated, then they should speak out? Because Pakistan right now, the worst human rights violations are going on in Pakistan right now.
What did you make of the cryptic comments coming from the present government in Pakistan? I mean, I don't know what you made of Rana Sanullah, the Interior Minister, saying either Imran Khan or us will get murdered. What does that mean?
Because, you know, he's a lone killer. I mean, his own party says that he's killed 18 people. He's murdered 18 people. And so, you know, he's a small-time crook. So to expect...
Well, he would deny that, but what does he mean? Does he mean that there is a possibility that you're going to get through these 150 corruption charges, come out again in time for the election? What does he mean?
What he means is that if there are elections and I win, then someone like a crook like him will be in trouble. I think that's what he means. Because, I mean, problem in Pakistan right now is that we do not have rule of law. In other words, there are people, powerful crooks are above law. And the majority of the population has no access to justice. They don't have, no one protects their fundamental rights. Hence, I started my movement for justice 27 years ago.
But why did so many...
means rule.
I mean, you talk about media, which without a free media, no country can call itself democratic. The numbers of journalists that went missing when you were Prime Minister, I mean, where did they all go? I know at the moment Imran Khan is missing since the 11th of May. I don't know if you have any update on where he's gone. But I have a list of journalists here who went missing while you were there. You know, whatever views they hold, Najam Sethi, Nusrat Javed, Salim Safi, Majula Jan, Absar Alam, Mir Saqib, what happened to all these people?
Let me just say clearly, the journalists that went missing had nothing to do with my government, had everything to do with the military establishment, because we were coming out of the war on terror, you know, and during war on terror, you know, the military was very sensitive to journalists criticizing them. So we had, you know, they would pick up people. But believe me, my government never went after any journalist. And right now, you can't compare what happened then. One of our best investigative journalists, Arshad Sharif, was hounded out of the country and murdered in Kenya. I mean, 3 of our top journalists have left the country. They're out of the country because they feared for their life. And the whole media, there's a total clampdown. So you cannot compare what happened during our time and this total fascism which is going on right now.
Are there parallels with Donald Trump then? People people think Donald Trump would win a US election. He's being banned from different media. His recent talk, he was doing a rally and it wasn't broadcast on CNN and MSNBC and other channels, just on Fox News. You can't get your rallies broadcast on normal Pakistani channels. He, of course, tried to negotiate with Putin. You were talking to Putin. Are there parallels between you and Trump? Trump riding high in the opinion polls in the United States, and according to you, you are the favored candidate at any future Pakistani election.
It's not according to me. It's in all the opinion polls in Pakistan. Plus, I mean, if you want evidence, a party wins 80% of the by-elections. So it's obviously, you know, it is right now probably the most popular party in our history. Now, coming to this comparison, it's a bit different. The sort of cases I'm facing, I mean, if those cases were, if they tried to put those cases on Donald Trump, people would laugh in the US. I mean, how could I have committed 9 criminal offenses when I was in jail for 4 days? How could I have committed 40 terrorist attempts? I am on 40 charges of terrorism. I mean, how can it be possible? So imagine if they tried to put a terrorism case on Donald Trump, people would, you know, make mincemeat of the government if they ever did that. So you can't compare what is happening there to Donald Trump and what is happening here. I mean, I've been charged for murder. Do you know, I don't even know the guy. There's some lawyer who gets killed in a remote town, and I'm charged for murder. When his wife says that it is a family feud, his son has nominated some other people, yet the government has charged me for his murder. So what is happening here is ridiculous.
Well, do you want to be Prime Minister again? I know you said recently that you wouldn't tell anyone who aspires to politics to go into politics in Pakistan again. You want to be Prime Minister again?
I would, you know, I was asked a question, I mean, about politics as a career. I said I would not even wish it on my enemies. I mean, if my sons ever said they wanted to enter politics as a career, it is the worst career to have, and especially for people who can do other things. I guess people who can't do anything would go into politics. But politics has a mission, you know, like our founding father, Jinnah, or like Nelson Mandela, or like Gandhi in India. I mean, when it is a mission, it is completely different. For me, someone who had everything, who was the biggest name in the country, I didn't need to be in politics. But I realized that unless we have rule of law, which we didn't because we have an elite capture in this country, a small elite is above law, and it's captured the resources. So unless you have rule of law, a level playing field, I always felt our country had no chance.
Yes, but when you were in power, when you were in power, I mean, this is what assassinated Benazir Bhutto's son, Bilawal, now the foreign minister of Pakistan, said that you were only too happy when those he implied the anti-democratic elite captures, you describe it, forces were supporting you. You were fine with that. It's only when they don't like you that you are now criticizing them, these elite captured people.
He is talking absolute rubbish. It was the first time that we started probe against the big mafias, like the sugar mafia, like the petroleum mafia. It's never happened in my country before. The problem was that the army chief, if he vetoed anything, you could do anything. And he did not allow me to get the other mafias under the rule of law because he was connected with them. I mean, he was friendly with the political mafias. So he had a veto on this because he was all powerful. So to correct you, to bring the powerful under the rule of law, you need a strong government. My government was a coalition government, weak, which did not have the majority. So whenever I would touch a mafia, I would have problem keeping my majority. And so therefore, my conclusion is that you can only, if you want reforms and you want to bring people under the rule of law, you cannot do it unless you come up with a proper majority, a proper majority in
Well, you think you are. You think you would get one right now. So just very briefly, will you be running if all this court action manages to wrap up before the next election in Pakistan? Will you run for Prime Minister?
Well, of course, this is the election year. I mean, my party is all poised for the election. But what is happening is that the other team is so scared of losing that they want either a technical knockout, so me going in knock me out through a military court, because the civil courts cannot knock me out because the cases are all bogus. So now they want military courts to actually disqualify me or put me in prison, which again will be a big farce. But of course, my party is poised to win the elections whenever they are, because it's just that the public opinion, never has the public stood with any one party as it stands today, which is all the 12 parties together are scared of competing against us.
Former Prime Minister Imran Khan, thank you. And that's it for the show. We'll be back on Monday with Ebrahim Hashem, Asia Global Fellow at the Asia Global Institute, on the future of multipolarity and strengthening Arab-China relations. Meanwhile, you can keep in touch via all our social media if it's not censored in your country, and head to our channel, Going Underground TV, on rumble.com, to watch new and old episodes of Going Underground. See you Monday.